sports fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Focus on Indianapolis Sports. I'm your host, Lawrence Mayberry, and I'd like to welcome our guest this week, who is the head coach and former IHL Coach of the Year. He's now head coach of the Indianapolis Checkers, Mr. Ron Ullyot. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us here.
Ron is going to talk to us about some of the goings-on with the Checkers franchise. As you all are probably aware, they're having a very successful season this year. They are presently in first place in the Western Division of IHL and are seeking to make the playoffs and go on and win another championship. And under Ron's leadership, they're having an outstanding season and are probably going to be the favorite to win their division this year. Before we get into our interview with Ron, let's talk about this week's sports stories. And we're going to start with the NFL Wild Card playoff games, which started on this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday. And the first game up was the Jets versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you all know the Jets came in on a 5-game tailspin. They had lost 5 consecutive games to close out the season. Many felt they did not deserve to be in the playoffs, finishing that poorly. But they came around, they got their offense on track under the leadership of quarterback Pat Ryan and running back Freeman McNeil. They were able to stomp the Kansas City Chiefs 35-15 as they totally dominated this game, led behind the rushing of Freeman McNeil, who was over 150 yards in this game, and Pat Ryan's consistent play at quarterback. Now, their defense was key by the return of one of their major players, that is superstar Mark Gastineau, whose presence was definitely felt in this game as he put a lot of pressure on Kansas City quarterback Todd Blackledge. Now, next up for the Jets, they've got to go into Cleveland's Municipal Stadium to face the Cleveland Browns in the divisional playoffs, and they will definitely be at least a touchdown underdog in this game, as Cleveland is playing probably right now the best football in the American Football Conference. Now on to the National Football Conference, where the Redskins played the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday in RFK Stadium and slugged out a 19-7 victory over the Redskins behind the strong rushing of George Rogers, who got 115 yards on the ground, and a defense which played toe-to-toe with the Rams and forced 6 turnovers. Now, among those 6 turnovers were 3, that's right, count them, 3 fumbles by superstar running back Eric Dickerson, who rushed for 158 yards but turned that ball over too many times to really help his team in the playoffs. Now, rookie quarterback Jim Everett from Purdue had a so-so game. It was his first probably really big game, probably the first of many big games that he's going to have. He threw for 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in this game, as he really sometimes looked like a rookie quarterback that he is, but we can all expect that Mr. Everett is going to get better as the season goes on. Next up for the Redskins will be the Chicago Bears in Chicago next Saturday in the divisional playoffs. The New York Giants will play host next Sunday to the San Francisco 49ers, and the New England Patriots will will go out to Denver to play the Denver Broncos. Now, the favorite in the next round of the playoffs will be Cleveland, Chicago, New York Giants, and Denver, and those teams generally are expected to win the games because they had stronger seasons and they basically have stronger rosters. Let's move on to some local news now, where the Indianapolis Checkers rallied to defeat Peoria in a Say No to Drug night for Hamilton County youth. Now, the Checkers won that game 6-3 to retain first place over Fort Wayne in the IHL Western Division. They had to rally from a deficit of that game. I think 3-0 or 2-0 down they were, and they came back to finish strong and pull out a victory. Now, they will finish the 1986 portion of their schedule on New Year's Eve in Fort Wayne, where they will compete with Fort Wayne for first place in the IHL Western Division. Moving on now to college basketball, we're taping this on a Monday, and when you see this tape, the games that I'm going to talk about will have already been played. And I'm speaking right now of Purdue University versus North Carolina in a game that will happen Monday night in Dallas's Reunion Arena as a part of the Dallas Morning News Classic. Now, Purdue has beaten 7 teams. They're 7-0. They're ranked number 2 in the nation, and they've beaten these teams by an average of 26.5 points per game. Can you imagine that? Purdue is beating teams by almost 30 points a night. Now, they're going to to face a North Carolina team which has only lost once in 9 games. They lost on the road at Pauley Pavilion to UCLA, but North Carolina, as always, is well stocked with talent. They have playing for them All-American guard Kenny Smith, as well as probably the top freshman player in the country, at least as the polls declared that last year as he was a high school senior, and that's J.R. Reed. Watch for Mr. J.R. Reed versus Purdue tonight, because he is an outstanding player. He's almost 7 foot tall, about 6'10". He's a powerhouse kind of player. Purdue is led, as always, by the M&M boys, or the T&T boys, excuse me, Todd Mitchell and Mr. Lewis. I forget. Troy Lewis, exactly. My crew out here had to help me about Troy. Troy's a former Mr. Basketball here in the state. That's Troy Lewis and Todd Mitchell, both of whom are exciting players, are dynamic players, are the kind of players that Purdue is counting on to lead them into some national rankings this year, as they are very outstanding players. Now, we're going to close with college football. As an IU graduate, I've got to mention the Hurricane Hoosiers. They're going to be playing in the All-American Bowl down in Birmingham, Alabama versus Florida State on Wednesday night. Now, IU comes in as a 14-point underdog to Florida State. Florida State is an outstanding team. Their 86 schedule was exactly rugged. I mean, they had losses at Nebraska, losses at Michigan 20-18, and another loss at Miami. But they come in as a 2-touchdown favorite over Indiana on Wednesday night. IU feels they can beat Florida State. They look to the example of their game versus Michigan State, where they upset Michigan State in East Lansing, where once again they were probably about a 10-point to 2-touchdown underdog. So as the underdog, IU is looking to have a good game versus Florida State on Wednesday night, and let's wish the Hoosiers good luck in their first bowl appearance since 1980. We're going to close out the sports there, and we're going to pause right now for a brief message, after which we'll be back with Mr. Ron Ullyot. And excuse me, Todd and Troy.
But I really need a big brother and a big sister.
Sorry, kids. All out right now.
But we have questions and stuff. We really need a friend.
You gotta wait.
But we can't wait.
You gotta wait.
We gotta wait.
Hundreds of boys and girls would really like you to call right now.
Welcome back, sports fans. Our guest is Ron Ullyot, head coach of the Indianapolis Checkers. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us, Ron, what is your background in hockey in terms of, from your childhood on up, what got you to the point of being a head coach in professional hockey?
Well, originally from Canada, and started skating probably when I was like 2.5 years old. I come from a background of hockey. My father was a hockey player and was into coaching, and we moved down to Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1958-59, where he was coaching and managing the Fort Wayne Komets. So I pretty much grew up in Indiana, playing in the minor league hockey program in Fort Wayne, and then moving on to the University of Michigan and playing hockey there for 4 years, and coming back and playing in Fort Wayne for 7 years in the International League, and then moved on to coaching in several cities in the International League, in Fort Worth, Texas, when they were in the Central Hockey League, when they played Indianapolis in the Central League. And this is my 11th year in coaching, and enjoyed very much.
Okay. Now, the Checkers are obviously having an outstanding season this year. What are the keys to your team's success? And then name some of your key players this year.
Well, I'd like to say good coaching, but I think it's a lot more than that. We've got a good nucleus of players. We've got a lot of quickness, which helps in any team sport. We're able to, if we make a mistake, correct it by using our speed. We have a lot of goal scorers. Our forwards, almost every one of them are natural goal scorers, so we're able to score a lot of goals. We've got experienced goaltending. And then the intangible things, the good attitude, the positive attitude that the players have, the individual's desire to excel and move up. I think a combination of the skills and the the intangibles of our club has made us a winning team.
So who would some of your key players be?
Well, obviously the dominant one that everybody would notice would be Ron Handy, because he's leading the league in scoring. At this point in time, he's leading the league by 10 points, and if he continues that pace, he'll break you know, the Checkers record for a leading scorer. He'll break the IHL record for a leading scorer, and you know, if he can stay healthy, he'll have a tremendous year. We've got you know, players like Bobby Laxo, who is in his 3rd year with Indianapolis, who's a dominant player. We've got John Casey, a goaltender, who last year played 22 games with the Minnesota North Stars and was voted the Rookie of the Year for the Minnesota hockey team, for the Minnesota players. Davey Perro, an experienced goaltender, and really a lot of other guys. When you've got a winning team, you've got a lot of good players.
So it's a team effort.
Definitely.
Led by a few all-stars, though.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. In terms of hockey in Indianapolis, how have fans here in the city of Indianapolis responded to professional hockey?
Well, as you probably know, hockey's been around here for a long time. I think back in the 40s, even late 30s, it started playing at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, and it's been in and out of the American League, the International League, the Central League, the World Hockey League. We're into our third year here of being in the International League, consecutive 3 years. Our 2nd year with ownership from Mr. Larry Woods, a local businessman. Last year we moved from the Coliseum down to Market Square Arena, and we didn't get the support, we didn't get the fans. Of course, we didn't have as good a team as we have this year. This year we were able to have a whole year of working in the summer and setting up some promotions, and our attendance has more than doubled. And the team, of course, their record is in good shape, and so I think things are on a very upbeat and positive note. A lot of people are talking about hockey. I had a fan, I answered a phone call this morning in our office, a fan that was at our game last night and said, you know, just wanted to call and say that I saw such a great hockey game. It was a great family entertainment, and I'm going to be back, and I want somebody to call me this summer. I have a local business and I want to sponsor an ad in your program. And we're getting a lot of calls like that. People are really starting to talk about hockey, and you know, it helps to have a winning team too.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about attendance. What kind of attendance figures are you reaching this year?
Well, I don't have the exact figures right now, but we're in the low 4,000 average. Last year, to give you an example, we were down in the 2,000 average. So we've almost doubled our attendance.
What would be, say, leading the league in attendance? What franchise would have? Is your attendance average for the league, IHL, or is it typical? Is it non-typical? Who would lead the league, for example, in attendance in this IHL?
Well, an average attendance in the league, the last figure I saw was somewhere around 2,800, and so we're leading the league right now in attendance. So we're well above the average.
Okay. Now, speaking of your move from the fairgrounds to Market Square Arena, what prompted that move? I understand there was at least some disappointment among some of your fans' part that the team plays or games were moved from the fairgrounds to the arena. What prompted the move? Why did you make the move?
Well, I think our owner, Mr. Woods, was looking at trying to get us in the facility downtown where it seems to be all the interest is in the community, to focus in on the downtown. You know, the Union Station was being built at that time. You know, the Hoosier Dome is there, and so many other things that they're planning in downtown Indianapolis, and he wanted the hockey team to be a part of it. I think long range, he was hoping that we could possibly be considered for an NHL franchise, and to do that you'd have to be in the large facility in Indianapolis. Not taking anything away from the Coliseum, because it is a fine place to watch hockey, and you're right, there were a lot of people that were disappointed that we moved down there, and I suppose it's a case of anybody being accustomed to going to a certain place to watch an event and not wanting to have to change their plans and maybe drive a little further downtown. But we stuck in there, and we hung in there a 2nd year, and it looks like it's paying off.
Now, you gave me a great segue into my next question, and that is, what would it take for the city of Indianapolis to acquire a National Hockey League franchise? And then corollary to that, is the city and are your fans ready for a National Hockey League franchise? What would it take, and is the city ready? Okay,
I think school is out on is the city ready. I think this year has been a very positive step for the NHL people to consider Indianapolis for a National League franchise, and that's just exactly what has to happen. we can't really go out and sell ourselves and go to the National Hockey League people and say, look, we want a franchise. They are the ones that control it, and they make their judgment and say, yes, we want to have a franchise in Indianapolis, or we want to have it in Dallas, or we want to have it in Seattle, or whatever. And then they come to the community and they say, who are the people that would be interested in owning the franchise? If we keep making the strides we're making in attendance, and we can keep having a good product on the ice, I think we have an excellent chance of doing it, because of all the other things that are happening in Indianapolis, because of the way they support the Colts, because of the way the community supports the basketball team and all the other amateur sports that come in there. There's National League people that are looking at that, and we certainly have an excellent facility too.
Is expansion on the agenda of the National Hockey League Board of Governors?
Well, they're very hesitant to talk about it. They have said that they are considering it, and for obvious reasons, if they come out and make a commitment that they're going to do it and then they don't, they can upset a lot of people. So when they're ready to make that decision, they'll talk about it. But they're looking, I would say, maybe 2 to 3 years down the line where they want to add another 2 or 3 hockey teams.
Okay. Now, speaking of the IHL and the National Hockey League, what relationship does the IHL have to the National Hockey League, and are the Checkers themselves connected with any NHL franchise?
Okay, the relationship is, if you can compare it to baseball, where they have AAA and then AA and then a couple leagues below that, we would be considered AA. In other words, there is another league, the American Hockey League, that most of the NHL teams have their direct farm club. In other words, if I'm a coach of a National League team and I want to get a player, I've got a team in the American Hockey League where I would get that player. Now, we do have in the International Hockey League, right now we have one team that is a direct farm club. That's Peoria. They're a direct farm club for St. Louis. It is anticipated that next year there'll be as many as 6 teams who will put, NHL teams that will put their direct farm club in the International Hockey League. So we're on the threshold of going to being a AAA league. And what the way it is right now, most IHL clubs work with 2 to 3 National Hockey League teams and get their players from those clubs.
Which teams are the Checkers connected with?
We work with New Jersey and Minnesota.
Okay. Now, in terms of the IHL itself, for the typical player that's playing in this league, is he seeing this as a stepping stone to the big leagues, as a minor league baseball player would be aspiring to make the major leagues? Is this true of your players in the IHL?
It depends on the individual player. We have some players that are maybe in their late 20s that, you know, in the twilight of their career, and they just love playing the game and want to continue it. But in our situation, the majority of our players, because we have about 12 players who are under contract with Minnesota, 1 player under contract with New Jersey, and we have about another 6 or 7 players given the time of the season that are under contract to ourselves. And almost every one of them are young players in their early 20s, and yes, they are looking at this as a stepping stone, and legitimately so. There are players at the end of every season that move up out of this league right into the National Hockey League. Okay.
And in terms of their status as players, what's the key to their development? How did they get developed to the point of being professional hockey players? Are they Canadian types like as yourself in terms of getting started early in Canada and playing? What's the typical development of an IHL player?
Well, they're from all over. There are 3 major junior leagues in Canada, and that's from ages 16 to 20, and that's where the National Hockey League drafts the majority of their players. There are there's 4 major college leagues in the United States. There's about 3 in Canada. That's where another source of players come from. And most of the players, a typical player in Canada will just start out playing, you know, when he's 5, 6 years old in house leagues, and then if he's good enough, he'll get on a travel team with a team that will be sponsored by a corporation or a service club like a Kiwanis or Rotary. And then he'll move on into midget and then up to junior hockey. If he decides early in his career that he wants to go to college, he'll play a lower level of junior, and then he'll hopefully get picked for a scholarship by either an American or Canadian college. And that's really where we get the bulk of our players, either from major junior in Canada or the colleges in the United States and a few colleges in Canada.
Now, for example, how many players on your team would be drafted by NHL teams?
Oh, offhand, I'd probably say about 9 or 10 players have been drafted at one point in time by the National Hockey League.
Okay. And what salary range are these players competing for? What are they playing for?
Well, it depends whether, if they're under contract with the National Hockey League team, they're obviously going to earn more money. That range would be anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 for a season. The players that we have under contract for Indianapolis ourselves, anywhere from $11,000 to $15,000 or $16,000 for a season.
Okay. Now, for the uninitiated hockey viewer, such as myself, I've watched a few games on TV, and principally those are the bigger games, the playoff type games. But what could you advise a viewer in terms of watching hockey? How do you watch hockey?
Well, the first thing to do is not to watch it on TV the first time you go watch a game, if you want to really enjoy it, because unfortunately the sport just doesn't lead itself to TV if you're a first-time watcher. If you go to a few games, you go and sit with somebody that maybe knows the game, can explain 3 or 4 of the basic rules, or you buy a program that has the rules in there, take some time to read that before you watch the game, and simply just follow the puck. And compare it a lot to basketball. Some of the changes are, we have a goaltender because we've got a bigger net to guard against. So we have 6 players where basketball has 5. You see a lot of the same patterns, a lot of the same picks and 3-on-2 kind of breaks, 2-on-1 kind of breaks you'll see in basketball. There are some rules to keep the players together, and those are offside icing and 2-line passes. I won't go into those, but those are some of the rules that people need to understand. They just follow the puck. We have penalties. You know, when a player gets a penalty, he's taken off the ice, so the team is played shorthanded. And one other unique thing we have is we can substitute players during the game. In basketball, you have to have a stoppage of play, same with football. But in hockey, you can change players on the fly. The reason for that is it's a very demanding sport, very aerobic sport, and where you use a lot of oxygen, and you need to substitute players quickly.
Yeah, okay. Now, in terms of Indianapolis kids, I'm sure with the franchise being here now, you got a lot of youngsters who are able to come out and watch a high-level hockey competition. What would you advise for young Indianapolis kids who want to become good hockey players and maybe even become pro players at some point in the future? What would you advise for them as it pertains to training and some things they should be concerned about?
Well, if they're just starting out, what they need to do is get involved in one of the local leagues, either at the, I think we have 4 major groups. We have Carmel, we have Perry Park, we have the Coliseum, and there's one other one. So this is a tremendous area really for youth hockey. There's a lot of places where a young player can play. There's also some high school clubs. When a player gets older, he can join one of the high school clubs. He has to get on the ice as much as he can, get good coaching just like any other sport, but he just has to get exposed to it, so he's on the ice as much as he possibly can. If he's a very talented young man, he needs to go where the competition is, and so he probably at this point in time, you know, if he's very talented, might consider maybe moving when he gets 16 or 17 years old to one of the hockey hotbeds, attend some of the summer camps that they have all across the United States and even here locally, and that's what he needs to do.
Okay. One last question for you, Ron. You sponsored, or the franchise sponsored, the Checkers that is, sponsored a Say No to Drugs program last night at Market Square Arena. What was that all about?
What it was with the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office. Steve Nation was a gentleman that coordinated with our staff, and we sold tickets for $1 to the schools in that area, and the kids came in, and we had a rock band for them afterwards. We had free pizza and Coke. Ideally, what we started out to do, we wanted to do it on New Year's, but we couldn't get a game scheduled on New Year's. We're going to try to do that next year. And the kids just stayed after the game. They got autographs from the players and the rock group that was there, and they had the pizza and just socialized and danced. It was you know, a lot of the players stayed around, and after the game, it was quite an enjoyable night for the kids. They came and saw a good hockey game and then stayed afterwards. Now we're going to have another one this Sunday at 4 o'clock, and the tickets will be $1 for Upper Arena, and it'll be the same type of format.
That's Sunday, January 4th.
That's right.
Okay, the game starts at 4?
4 o'clock.
And now the $1 tickets, can any fan purchase one?
Yeah, that's for the upper arena. It'd be $4 for the lower arena.
Okay, very good. We've been speaking to Ron Ullyot, and thanks for your comments, Ron.
Thank you.
We're going to go into right now our regular feature, which is the sports trivia quiz. We're going to give you the answers to last week's questions and then this week's new questions. Question number 1 from last week. Who rushed for the most yards in a Super Bowl game? The answer, Marcus Allen, 191 yards. Question number 2. Which pro sports franchise holds the record for most consecutive winning seasons? The answer, the New York Yankees with 39 consecutive winning seasons, followed by, I think, the Montreal Canadiens. Question number 3. What NFL quarterback has passed for 400 yards in a game the most times? The answer, Dan Marino, 8 times. Question number 4. Only one school has won each of the major college bowls, the Rose, the Sugar, the Cotton, and the Orange, twice. What school is it? That's the University of Alabama. Question number 5. What NHL player was selected to play in the most All-Star games? The answer, Gordie Howe, 21 times. We're going to now move on to next week's questions. Question number 1. The Indianapolis Checkers are the minor league affiliate of the New York Islanders. True or false? The Indianapolis Checkers are the minor league affiliate of the New York Islanders. True or false? Question number 2. Name the only NBA player, the only player, excuse me, to lead the NBA in scoring and assist in the same season. Name the only player to lead the NBA in scoring and assist in the same season. Question number 3. What college has made the most bowl game appearances? What college has made the most bowl game appearances? Question number 4. What former Purdue star is the oldest defensive lineman in the National Football League? What former Purdue star is the oldest defensive lineman in the National Football League? Question number 5. Which pro sports franchise has had the most consecutive non-winning seasons? Which pro sports franchise has had the most consecutive non-winning seasons? Send your answers to the Programming Department of Indianapolis Cablevision, P.O. Box 20911, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46220. Ron, thank you for coming out. We've been talking to Ron Ullyot, head coach of the Indianapolis Checkers. I'd like to invite all of you to go out and see some great hockey action. I'm going to try to get down there myself, particularly on your next Say No to Drug Night, which is January 4th at 4 o'clock at Market Square Arena. I'd like to thank you for watching this week's edition of Focus on Indianapolis Sports. We'll see you same time, same place next week.